There we go. All right, sorry. I'm going to reiterate that because I forgot to press record. We're using a hard bench or a stool, ball on top of there, and then we're just setting the hamstring on top. And then from there, just apply as much pressure as you can, and then extend up with the leg. And then lower down, and just move on to the next spot. And we can kind of work all the way up into the high hamstring. So from kind of the midpoint of the hamstring, working up towards the glutes, and using the center of the hamstring, and then moving a little to the side, working on there, a little to the other side, work on there, and then move up. And just kind of think about like dividing your hamstring up into like sections of a cake, and just kind of like doing all the way across and then all the way up. Luke jumping in. Hey, Luke,
sorry. Just got How are we doing?
Not too bad, buddy. We're just working on the hamstrings now. So if you've got a stool or a bench and a lacrosse ball, that's what we're just working on at the moment. You can also sort of think about slightly internally and externally rotating the leg. So once you've got it on there, turn your foot out to the side, apply the pressure, and then extend. You can start to get into some of the bit between hamstring and hip flexor where you can find some pretty gnarly mess. I'm just going to spend a good few minutes on each leg with this one, because it takes a while to kind of relax the hamstring and actually start to get through it. It's a big old chunk of muscle. And that's why sitting up with the ball itself, rather than, if you foam roll your hamstrings, they're just going to like, it's kind of like just tickling them. It's not really going to get that deep into the muscle. So that's why we need to use the ball, get a good bit of pressure on, and then extend. You'll find, like, if you ever have issues with the hamstring, like I've got a little bit of a kind of niggle at the back of my knee at the moment, like you kind of just need to get quite deep into it. And whilst it's down at the back of my knee, what's actually going on is way up here. And it's just releasing off some of this hamstring can massively help that. And it's not something that we often massage because it's not the easiest one to get into. Plus it also feels like a bundle of cables. What have you been up to today, Luke?
Skiing, man. Up on Cairngorm. Magic. Above the clouds.
Oh, brilliant.
All day.
Awesome. Good snow?
No, but good sunshine.
Spring conditions.
It is good snow. It's just not. It's not this season's snow. It's a normal Scottish winter snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It's spoiled.
Right. Nah, once the sun got on the higher stuff, it was all right. It softened up, but you couldn't ski down very far because then you were back in the cloud.
All right. Okay.
And it was a bit shit.
Just icy.
Mate, it was like a little party on the summit. Like there was just loads of us just sunbathing on the summit on that little weather station.
Nice.
Like you just kind of didn't really want to ski. We were just all like just chilling out on there with music and like it was like full on resort. It was like alpine.
That's awesome.
Bomber.
All right, we're moving towards the end on this leg. Just make sure you're getting right up towards the insertion of the hamstring. Working through some of the tissue up there. And again, turn your foot in, turn your foot out so that you're working across some of the outside of the muscle and the inside. And if you can tolerate it, put a little bit more pressure on as well. lean forward into it so you get a little bit more pressure. All right, we'll swap legs. Now that we've done that one. So again, starting at about the midpoint of the hamstring, placing the ball under there. Just aim for the meatiest big part of the hamstring you've got in the center. And we'll start there by just applying the pressure and then extending the leg. And then move across to the side a little. If you've not found a hot spot already, go there, move back again to the inside, go there, and then turn the foot out to the outside and kind of go across, and then externally rotate the leg and go across the other way. And just kind of go across like that for that part, and then move up a little, and then move up a little as you're going up the hamstring. We're just going to spend the same amount of time here, so a fair bit of time, 5-6 minutes per leg. And if you find a spot that you kind of want to spend a bit more time on, just start to work on side to side, and you can also press down and then move across, and just kind of think about creating a wave of pressure going across the muscle against across the grain of the muscle. Where does the snow start on the hill, Luke?
We could see back to the you can ski back to this building still. Just
Ski back to where?
to the building.
Ah, okay. That's pretty good then. It is pretty wild though, like after the season we've had, it kind of seems like not that much, but then, you know, on an average year, that would be a well-covered hill, especially at the moment.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you try and really like lay the inside of the leg onto the ball a little bit more and work through there, you might find some extra bits that you haven't got to yet. Just think about kind of like a high kick where you're kind of moving your leg across.
Sorry, my internet is terrible. There we go. That's better.
And once you've done one section, move on up a little.
Yeah, what was I saying? Like, there's still plenty of snow on there. There's a lot on the road as well. Still huge drifts that are like, you know, taller than you are. Still.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of wild some of the bits that have survived, even though it feels like it's been so warm. Like just even like down in Granton, where we're walking down, and the skating pond is still like you could stand on it, which seems wild.
Yeah,
but I imagine that's why it's the skating pond.
Still icy patches around.
Yeah, it was weird this morning because it had been so damp, being down in the clouds, but it had been cold. Everything had sort of frozen, but with black ice everywhere.
Yeah, it was like that this morning. Yeah.
So, Chris, are you throwing yourself into Murph training now? Is that the plan?
That's it. Yeah. I would have missed out otherwise.
You should
Well,
get along to the Open as well. It's another thing that's competed.
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah. I'll tell everyone to get you weight vests for your upcoming birthdays and Christmases, so you can get a good Murph on the go.
When's Murph? June?
Huh?
It's June, eh? Murph.
And end of May.
End of
Yeah,
May.
is it Memorial Day in America? I think it's called.
Can't
I'm
wait.
tempted to do it weight vested this year just to see what sort of time it takes, but yeah. I'll lose a load of weight and then get a weight vest and just bring myself back up to the same weight it started at. That would be the trick.
How are you doing the pull-ups? Are you doing them RX?
Yeah. I did it without the weight vest last year.
Yeah, I remember you doing it. You did it like late that night or something, didn't you? It was like
Yeah. Yeah, I did it like 9 or 10 or something like that. All right, we'll ease off there. And we're going to go into just a little bit of a stretch for the hamstring now. So put bench out to the side. And we're going to go into a staggered forward bend. So we're going to put one leg back. And that leg, the rear leg is going to be straight. And then we're going to bend the front leg. We're going to bring hands down to the ground. And from there, we're going to think about hips back as we try and straighten that front leg. And we're just going to go between a bent front leg and straight front leg. And we're just going to floss in there. So pushing the hips back to get that straight leg. And we're trying to keep the back flat if possible. If you aren't able to keep the back flat, then what we'll do is use the bench or the sofa or anything like that. Get yourself into this position with a nice flat back. And then hips back, straighten the leg. And try and keep that back as flat as you can through there. Okay, so we're just going to go for 20 on each leg. Just going from that bent position, nice flat back, push that front leg to straight, and then back again. And as you go, just really think about bracing the same as you would for a deadlift. Nice flat back, and then go for the extension of the knee, and then come back and relax it. Again, brace, make sure your back is as flat as it can be, and then push back with that knee.
and the back one should stay straight, yeah?
Yeah, the back one's passive. It's just nice and straight, supporting you. And then your hands are just supporting at the other end. And then just trying to keep that back flat. And then extend the front leg. The front leg's the one that's getting stretched.
Yeah.
But you'll really notice the difference. Like if I kind of like loosen off my back, I can go to straight and it's kind of fine. But if you try and organize your pelvis, get that flat low back, and then try and straighten, it blocks it off. And that's what we really want to try and push against, is that flat low back. So bring yourself up if you need to make that happen. Once you're on 20 on one side, stand up, shake it off, see how it feels, and then we'll swap to the other side. So stretching the other leg, start off with the rear leg nice and straight, front leg bent, and find the position where you can get your back flat fairly comfortably. And then from there, push your hips back until you get a straight front leg. And it's really thinking about the hips traveling backwards as you lock that front knee out. Again, we'll do 20 on this side. And between each rep, just keep on thinking about sorting out your low back again. And then as you go into that straight leg, just think about driving your hips back until that leg goes straight. Another thing you can do with this one is you can hook a band around the top of the femur on the front leg that helps pull the hip back, which makes it more effective, but a little bit more brutal. And you can do that with a lot of these stretches. You can add a band to increase your effectiveness. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab the lacrosse ball again. We're going to get down onto the floor, and we're going to work into the quads across here. Okay, so again, same area on the other side of where we're working on the hamstring. On the front here, we're going to lie down on our front, and we're going to work across the muscle, and we're also going to pin it down and then extend the leg again. Okay, so we're going to hop onto our front. Place the ball under the quad there. And then from there, apply as much pressure as you can by just leveling off the hips and trying to get both your hip bones to sit on the ground. Once both hip bones are sitting on the ground, we're then going to pull the heel towards our hips and pull that muscle across. And there's 16 different hip flexor muscles that all transition across the hip, and they're going to be attached at different places. We want to try and work all the way across the leg, so you try and get all of those through this. So make sure that the ball doesn't just stay in the middle. It moves across towards the midline of your body, and it also moves across to the outside of your body as you go through these. And you can roll the leg as one way of doing that, while still just trying to keep your hip bones down on the ground. So have you heard anything more police-wise?
Yeah, I start at college on the 29th.
Oh, nice.
That's really close. Yeah.
Wow.
Not found out where I'll be based yet. Should find out next week.
God, that's
Still here.
it's cutting it fine, letting you know you're going to start at the end of the month and not even know where you're going.
I know. I think they've there's a lot of hold-ups with medicals and things with all the weather.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. And I think for a while they weren't sure how many they were taking at the college either because of COVID. So
right.
It's been a bit. Yeah, there's been a lot of hold-ups with the organisation, I think.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, now they've picked who's going this month. They just need to figure out where they're going to be based.
Yeah. And so how will it work? Like, will you have times where you're just at college, or times where you're just on like sort of placement, or sort of shadowing people, or kind of a mix all the time?
So the college is a 12-week course.
Yeah.
Trying to get you started, and then your probationary constable for the first 2 years. So the 3 months are part of the 2 years, but the rest of the 2 years you're at your station, and basically you're buddied up with a training constable and that you go around as a pair and you're just a police officer with them.
Yeah.
They make the decisions, but you're kind of shadowing and learning as you go.
Okay, nice.
Cleaning
And as you go
all the
with
heads.
this one, if you just start to move up the leg a little bit as you come towards the hip flexor, so working from the midpoint, going across all the way up until you get towards the actual hip flexor itself, or hip flexor area, up in the crease of the hip. Sorry, buddy, I cut you off there. And if you want to add a little bit more pressure to this, kind of lean across onto the side that you are mobilizing. You can lift your other hip bone off the ground and put as much of your body weight through that side as you can if you find a spot that needs it. All right, we'll swap to the other side. And again, starting in the midpoint of the thigh, both vertically and horizontally. And start there, try and get your hip bones down to the ground, and bring that heel up towards the hips. Move across a little, do the same again. Just working around the front of the thigh, working across. And once you feel like you've done that level of it in terms of like between the knee and the space between the knee and the hip, then move up closer to the hip and then again work across the leg. If you find one side's worse than the other, then maybe just think about how you spend your time in your mobility sessions and try and just like put a little bit more bias towards the side that's tighter or feels worse, because it's probably going to be where you reap the most benefit. If one side didn't feel too bad at all and you've got another side that feels like hot hell, then it's probably a good wake up that needs a bit more TLC, because it's likely where you're going to get injuries, impingements, or just general niggles appearing first. Once you've got some pressure on the ball, another thing you can do is if you pull your heel towards your hip, once it's coming towards it, really, really pull hard, squeeze your bum, and then release. And remember, make sure you're getting onto the outside of the quad a little as you move up the leg. So glad you guys can't see my face right now.
Same.
One of the big challenges of stuff like this is to just try and relax your face, because as soon as you start tensing your face up in your neck, you've kind of lost the battle. The muscle's just tensing up against it. So like getting into a really painful spot and then just trying to like let it melt away a wee bit. All right, we'll come up there. And we're gonna just do a raised leg version of the hip extension. So hip extension is where, hey Laura, how's it going? Yeah, last one we're gonna go for is just a raised leg trail and hip extension. So we're just gonna get the front leg raised up. So I'm gonna start off my left leg raised up. From there, I'm gonna get my hips squared off, and I'm gonna turn my toes slightly to the inside. Okay, so my right toe are pointing across my body. Okay, and you'll feel it tighten up a little bit on the outside of the hip. From there, I'm gonna try and just lower forwards, rotating myself a little bit, and then coming forwards and just trying to rotate into that hip a little. Okay, so instead of my feet facing both straight ahead, which would be here, I'm turning that toe in, so the heel's out a little, and then from there, just letting it sink forwards to stretch off. Whilst you're in this position, with your trailing leg, really squeeze your bum as much as you can. And as soon as you squeeze your bum, that's when the stretch should shift into the hip itself, okay? When you're just in that trailing position, you can kind of just like relax into your lower back and everything. But once you squeeze the glute on the rear leg or the trailing leg, that's when it starts to transfer into the hip flexor a lot more. So start off with both feet facing straight ahead, and then take your trailing foot, turn it towards the inside of your body so the heel faces to the outside, and then start to come forwards whilst maintaining that squeezed bum. Okay, and we're just going to do a minute on each side. And it's good to try and work on not just the straight-footed version where you're just getting into the hip extension, but to also work on the slight internal rotation, which is what you end up in a lot of different kind of sporting situations where you get slight internal or external rotation to your hip whilst you're getting into extension. So as you relax into it, keep squeezing that rear glute as the hip comes forward and down, and you start to get stretch coming into the front pocket of the hip. And if you want at any point, you can push back out of it with that front leg, switch your glutes on, tighten up your abs, and then roll back into it, and you'll find you'll regain that stretch. All right, we'll switch legs. So swap which leg is on top. Start off, get the front leg on, and then turn your toes towards the middle of your body so the heel sticks out a little. And then think about tightening your abs down, organizing so you got a nice flat back, squeeze your bum, and then sink forwards in that position. And don't fall over. Laura, I was recording the rest of the session, so I'll put it up on the Facebook group later.
Thank you. Sorry I was late.
No worries. All good. And then push back out of the position, reorganize again. So squeeze your bum, tuck your hips, squeeze that rear glute, and then start to switch forward again just to regain that stretch. Because as you sort of sit into it, there's a tendency to sort of start to disorganize, which just happens. So if you kind of come back out of it and go back in and just do 30 seconds at a time, maybe do a minute and then go back in. All right, that's us guys. Nice work. So bit hamstring, bit hip flexor. feeling a little bit looser. I hope that was useful for everyone. And yeah, I'll pop a recording up on the group. So if anyone wants to get after that again, more than welcome to. But yeah, nice one to work on. Did anyone find they had either side that was worse for any of those than the other?
No, both as bad as each other, to be honest.
Yeah, everything felt pretty tight after today. Yeah.
Both just blinding, searing agony. Good. That's nice. All right. Awesome, guys. Well, great to see you all. And I'll see you again soon.
Awesome. See you later.
All right. Bye, guys.
Cheers, Rory.